Come on. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. Come on.
Hey everybody, this is a pre-recorded episode of Generation Orange because apparently Twitch decided to be stupid. Sad face because we were hoping to have this one live, but as you can see, I have a very well decked out co-host, which is better than I am today. I'm wearing my work shirt, but co-host, would you like to say who you are again for the audience that, everybody knows you, but...
Yeah, what's going on, guys? Which one? Which one? Are you talking about the special guest?
Talking about the one that's decked out. The one that's actually decked out, like wearing the jersey. He's the only one wearing the kit right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. What's up, guys? Mark, how you doing, man? I know it's been a while, but we're happy to be here with you as many Wednesdays as possible. Twitch kind of decked out on us last minute. I don't know what's going on with that. I'll blame Sean, but whatever. What's going on, man? You see we got a third person with us today.
Yes, absolutely.
So what's up, Andres? Everybody knows him as Dynamic Foxtrot, the one, the only, the greatest fox outside of Diesel that exists related to the Dynamo anyways. So you've got a podcast. You want to share the name of that podcast so everybody can go find you?
Yeah, of course. It's Noodle Time.
Noodle Time.
Yeah, of course.
What's the story behind the podcast name? I of course know the Noodle Time general story to begin with prior to the podcast, but where did that come from, and how did you guys land on that as your podcast name?
Yeah, so the name itself, it's a reference to the Dynamo back when it was back during better times, essentially, when they were going to playoffs every year, and they were winning on the road. And specifically, that reference came about when they beat the Chicago Fire on the road during playoffs, and during the game, one of the Dynamo fans that traveled to the game showed a poster that said Noodle Time, and essentially, it had no context, so it was something special because during those times it was probably one of the greatest times during in the Dynamo timeline, and not that many fans stuck to it in the long run, but over the course of the next few years, a ton of Dynamo fans will be attached to it. I will see certain fans and when I went to games as a season ticket holder, or right before then, during games in 2013, 2014, I will see fans just doing the noodle motion on the stands, when Toddy Hall made a save or something like that. And it's great. And when I went to naming the podcast, that was probably my first selection. I was also thinking about Crawford Foxes, which is a reference to the Astros one of like the section in the at Minute Maid Park. But then I thought, me and Tony thought that it was really attached to the Astros, so it wasn't like really 100% focused on like the Dynamo and Dash. And yeah, like that's mostly the history behind Noodle Time, and I felt like it was a pretty unique name.
Hey, and for those who don't know, you two guys are over there in Austin, right?
So I'm in Austin, and Tony is in Dallas. I think he's lives in Frisco actually. And yeah, like it's really I'd say like an interesting thing that we're doing, mostly because we don't get to go to Dynamo games, to all the home games, of course. But now that we have Austin FC here, I get to see the Dynamo all the time, and Tony gets to see the Dynamo whenever they travel to Frisco.
That's an interesting dynamic because obviously we got two huge Dynamo fans, and I guess and our biggest rivals, quote unquote. We'll still see about that with Austin FC and FC Dallas. I don't really think it's really that much of a rival, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. But just one more question off the Noodle Time, man. Do we eat noodles?
Of course, bro. Like, we're still hoping to get some like video of us like eating noodles while recording the podcast. But hopefully in the future. But yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Well, obviously, today's show has one very particular subject that we will be discussing pretty heavily. We're probably only going to go till 9 p.m., which is an hour and 20 minutes from now. But Andres said he would come on the show. We were very excited, Andres, to have you on the show, of course, as always. But today's big rumor, news, announcement, not really announcement, but confirmed through sources at MLS and by multiple outlets at this point, that the Dynamo ownership is a change in. As you know, we have talked about now for a while. The news and the report out previously at the end of last season that Brenner was potentially looking to sell his share in the Dynamo appears to be 100% true at this point. And the new owner, so to speak, that is rumored to be the one, confirmed to be the one, is a guy that, unless you've got some seriously good contacts that can find information, maybe through one of the alphabet soup government organizations like the NSA, CIA, FBI, even NASA for all I know. Unless you have one of those entities, good luck finding out anything about him. His name is Ted Segal. He is from New York. Comes from a fairly wealthy family. But outside of that, and outside of the fact that he's involved with real estate investments, I could not find very much, if at all, any information on him. There's not even information as to what his net worth is, which, at least with Gabriel Brenner, I could pull that up. But I can't even pull up his net worth. So I literally have very little to go on. But this tidbit of information, which is that, and this came from the articles that were released today about the sale. But the reported sale value or sale of the shares or majority shares is reported at $400 million. For reference, Gabriel Brenner's stake was somewhere around $200 million when he bought in at 51%. So interesting to see how this goes for sure. But of course, let's start with the most important question, and I'm going to toss this to Andres, and then Mark, you're welcome to chime in as well. But how is this any different than Gabriel Brenner as owner?
That's a great question, actually. That's why I'm both cautiously optimistic and excited, really. And it's really going to come down to what happens in the next couple of years, assuming that the transaction is approved over the next couple of weeks. That's what I'm assuming, at least, since the news are essentially surfacing first through Mark Berman, which is like one of the biggest name in the sports scene in Houston, and after that Sam Sketchell, which writes for the Athletic, and yeah, it's pretty much happening, and it's just a matter of time until they announce it, and yeah, it's like I said, I'm optimistic about it, but at the same time, it's really gonna come down to what happens next from here, and essentially how he's dedicated, if he's gonna be dedicated to the Dynamo or not, because a lot of people are bringing up the fact that he is pretty much in the same business as Werner, and people are not sure if it's gonna be like more of the same, or like he's gonna put like a couple bucks down there now and then. But like just reading through the story itself, there's gonna be like a ton of changes, which is one of the things I'm looking forward to. Especially since like Jay Silverstein, which is a minority owner for the Dynamos, is stepping down, and Brenner is also still going to be involved in the Dynamo organization, but he's going to be a minority owner, so he's not going to have like a ton of influence like he used to. So there's like a ton of changes going on. Obviously, we also have Matt Jordan in his last year under his current contract, and which was pretty much like from the start, like when it was announced, like it was only going to stay for like a year. I felt like it was pretty much going to be it was like the first red flag for like a new ownership, since it felt pretty weird to me that he was I always thought he was gonna leave after his last contract, but like with a year added to his stay in Houston, like it was pretty strange for me, honestly. And yeah, we're just gonna have to wait and see, honestly, and we'll see. Again, if we get to like a press conference at some point, we'll get to ask questions, and we'll see what happens, really.
So I have another adjective to add to this. Obviously you used optimistic. I'm gonna use underwhelming. It's a well before I get into why. It was rumored that he was in negotiations to acquire Orlando City before the Minnesota Vikings group acquired Orlando City, and he was looking into Real Salt Lake as well. So he was looking into getting into MLS prior to the acquisition of the Dynamo from Brenner. The reason why I say underwhelming is because maybe it's only underwhelming for the fact that like Sean mentioned prior, that we can't really find any information on Mr. Segal. Who knows? I mean, like I said, for me right now, I'm gonna nickname him Ghost because I don't know anything about him. He's invisible until I find out more about him, more about what he brings to the table as far as financial aspects for the Dynamo. As I'm just gonna nickname him Ghost because it's gonna be a fascinating thing. I think this season is gonna be basically in limbo. I'm not really expecting anything to be done during the summer transfer window as far as anything major, because of the simple fact that I think that with the new owner coming in, it takes about 45 to 60 business days to get all this thing processed, whatever, if I read correctly, through MLS and get all the paperwork done and finalized. So it'll be a little bit into a while. So you're talking about 2, 3, maybe even 4 months, till everything's finalized and all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. So with that being said, I don't think anything major will be happening in the transfer window as far as acquiring any kind of player that's gonna, help us, try to make the playoffs. So I guess basically this squad is going to have to do whatever they can do. This season is going to be basically one of those just, hey, if you make the playoffs, great. If you don't, then it's okay. Next season, we're going to go with a clean slate, and we're going to see what happens and and we'll see. And it's going to be fascinating to see who stays and who goes.
I like that. Basically, you heard it here first. Andres said Matt Jordan's on the end of his contract. I heard those exact words. He's done. Andres, I'm putting it on you when Matt Jordan is shown the door at the end of the season, and I'm okay with that. I truly am. But yeah, we kind of have to see how the rest of the season plays out. But here's the deal. You look at the other two teams that are up for sale. Or were up for sale in Orlando City, of course, that was acquired by the Minnesota Vikings ownership group or owner. And then you have RSL, which are looking to be acquired by, if I'm not mistaken, they've got interest from the Philadelphia 76ers ownership and the New Jersey Devils co-owner in David Blitzer is one of the parties that's interested. And I find that interesting because you kind of look at the Dynamo and it's kind of like, this feels extreme. I like the word underwhelming. This feels extremely underwhelming by comparison. Like, maybe at the end of this, we turn around next year and this guy goes out and he drops, 20 million on a big name star. He drops another 10 million on a middling star, whatever it is. I don't know. We'll see. But frankly, this feels like another Brenner coming into the same type of situation. And I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. And I was quoted saying this for something else, RGV related. I'm going to say it for this. Just be careful what we've wished for. We've all wished for new ownership. And I have said this before. Sometimes the grass is not always greener on the other side of that hill. And as optimistic as I want to be, because I am by nature an eternal optimist, there are some red flags for me that immediately go up. One, the guy clearly leads an extremely private life. Otherwise, he'd be in the news a lot more. Doesn't that sound like the guy we currently have? Isn't that one of the biggest complaints that we currently have from Dynamo fans? Is that the guy's, Brenner is not involved in ever at any matches? Why are you expecting or have the thought that a guy from New York, who I don't even know if he's even been to Houston, I'm sure he has, but who clearly has no roots in Houston whatsoever, whether it's business roots or otherwise, what thought do we have or what reasons do we have to believe that this guy is going to be involved heavily or not? Secondary to that, go ahead.
Let me throw this tidbit into what you're saying, Sean. And like I said, I totally agree with what you're saying. Underwhelming is how I feel, and obviously I want to feel optimistic because we've been waiting for this for quite some time, and as Dynamo fans, we wanted new beginnings, and like I said, yeah, with new beginnings comes a lot of unknowns, and he's he's a great unknown because we don't know, we don't know what he can provide, but I'll throw this tidbit in there just to throw a little bit more into the optimism that I'm hoping that we can garnish after everything comes out and we finally see what this guy, can provide for the Dynamo. A couple of, I want to say a season or two ago, I think Garber was speaking on the Houston franchise or the Houston Dynamo and talking about how much potential the Dynamo and the city of Houston has for soccer and how much he wants the city of Houston to be a much more marketable city for MLS because it should be. It's the most diverse city in America, right? I think we, in choosing who the buyer was going to be for the Dynamo, I'm thinking, MLS and Don Garber had a little bit of a, hey, what's going on? What are your intentions? Kind of things, as far as for Mr. Siegel, and I think maybe they heard what they liked and they approved this. I mean, obviously, at the end of the day, this is a single entity, and even though Brenner is a owner of the share of the Dynamo, but MLS have to approve this before it can go final. And I'm sure that Don Garber kind of maybe threw in there what he wants to see from this franchise and what he wants to see invested into this franchise, and and hopefully with that, maybe Ted, takes that into light, and he is that owner that we've been looking for, and he has the financial backing that we've been looking for, and he can provide better quality on the pitch.
Andres, let me ask you a question related to all of this, of course, which is what are you looking for specifically that's going to either be the okay, yes, this is going to be okay, or this is not going to be okay. Let's say between the end, by the end of this season / into the first half of next season, what types of things are you looking for?
We just have to obviously the first aspect we have to look at will be the general manager position. Like I just mentioned before, Jordan is almost certainly leaving after this season. Like if people with a brain figure that out, he should be after like what's been like an eternity. I would say like the last 7 years, like it's been miserable, and you look at that, and then you look at like a really crucial position to like develop the team, and you look at a pretty well-respected coach in Tab Ramos, and you can like easily develop a plan with him, and with like also with like Paul Holliker, like bringing in like a brand new academy, like going back 2 years now, and like the academy, like obviously there's not like a proven pipeline going through Holliker, but at the same time he has like proven results on the field already with academy teams, and the the academy is progressively improving. At some point, eventually, over the next few years, we'll hopefully have a clear pipeline, like we'll see, like with the Philadelphia Union lately. Like they're churning out like academy products like crazy, and really, like I would say, it will start from the GM position, and obviously, like over the course of the offseason, we have to see how the roster pans out. If we keep like the piece we have to keep from this season, and like obviously, we're gonna have to talk about like designated players at some point. And Mark already mentioned like the most likely fact that we're not gonna see like any major moves coming into like the summer window, but rather assuming that Ted comes in like during this season, he'll have like enough time to like assess the situation and figure out a plan. But it, in my opinion, it all starts with the GM position, really.
Let me ask you this question, and let me ask both of y'all this question. Speaking of the GM, when and if the new GM is appointed and is brought in, you guys is disappointed if the GM and new owner decided to part ways with Tab and decide to go a different route?
I've been incredibly disappointed, honestly. Tab Ramos, he comes in like his first year, like he comes in an organization that doesn't know where it's going, and the ownership is essentially transitioning, and it would be extremely unfair if Tab were to leave after this season, and having him like in this club, in this organization, really, it will like really help a lot, especially with like a new ownership and a GM that actually has a plan with him. So I'll be extremely disappointed.
John?
Yeah.
The reason I asked before you answer, Sean, is soccer, and in the world of soccer, obviously I know all of us follow soccer all over. You can have different ideas, you can have different strategies, you can have different tactics, when it comes to soccer, and how you want to approach it, and how you want to win it, what you want to show on the pitch, and what you want to present to the fans. And let's just say, Ted comes in here, but man, I want to see some fun, attacking, high scoring soccer, and the general manager that he appoints, he's like, maybe he's well connected, who knows, and he has the resources to bring in players that are like that. Maybe Tab doesn't agree with what they're trying to do as far as changing their, the positioning or the formation that he has, or who knows, maybe Tab agrees and he decides to change his formation up. But that's the reason I asked that question. But yeah, Sean, go ahead. Would you be disappointed if Tab doesn't get brought on?
I've thought about it, and honestly, I think I would be if Tab isn't kept around, because of the work that Tab has put in, the changes that Tab have made or has made to improve the team with the resources that he's been given access to, and the caveat being, of course, that in the event that new ownership, is willing to splash the cash a little bit, I think you give a chance to Tab, and you say, let's see what you can do with some resources and what you can do with some money, and have the chance to upgrade the positions, where you want to upgrade. I mean, consider the budget that Tab has been working with, currently. I mean, we're still under, we're at what, 10 to 12 million right now. I think last I checked, maybe just a hair over 9 million. And we're one of the top, one of the bottom 4 spending teams in the league. Ahead of Austin FC, by the way, which I love like so much. But we're one of the bottom 4 spending teams. How much better can Tab have as far as a team goes, or as far as the team goes, if he has the money to spend more in specific places? Obviously, they brought in Tim Parker on a very domestically speaking, very expensive trade, but the overall cost to the franchise is extremely small. They were able to, Tim Parker has helped really honestly shore up the back line, although last match makes you question that a little bit. Although who plays a 5-man back line? We'll get to that later. But at the same time, he shored up the back line. He went and grabbed Tyler Pasher from the USL on a extremely friendly, budget-friendly contract. And Tyler Pasher, without a doubt, is probably one of the top 10, top 15, top 20 wingers in the league in MLS with how he came out and started playing initially. We'll have to see how he plays after the injury. But I mean, it's lots of things like that. Players that that most teams would not. We're not willing to keep around for one reason or another, and they're starters for the Dynamo, and performing well enough in some cases. Mark, some cases like a Fafa Pico, not to set Mark off on a 30-minute rant or anything, but it's just I look at what Tab has done, and if Tab can do that with a minimal budget, just unlock another $10 million and say, here, you can spend this however you want, one player, two players, salaries, however you want to make this work. That's not a lot of investment really if you think about it, but 10 million this year, and then based on performance, we'll consider upping it. You give them 10 million, extra to spend beyond the 9.5 they're spending this year, and frankly, what Tab could do is it's hard to say. I mean, there are a ton of possibilities out there.
And to be honest, 10 million in MLS is a lot. 10 million is the difference between us and LAFC. Honestly, if you look at the foundation of the team, if you just take the team bare none, if you take LAFC bare none without Vela or Rossi, you have the Dynamo in LAFC basically. Now that 10 mil that gets spent, the way they spend it, that's where it gets you over the top. That's where it gets to you. That's where you get the Dynamo to becoming a bottom team, to maybe being a playoff team, maybe being a championship caliber team. Because the fact of the matter is, your two top players or top three players, depending on how many DPs you have in your team, the players that really make you and can take you to that next level. That's why I know on the Discord, or on the private chats that we have, I always mention like, hey, it's great that we have these youth players coming in, and we got all these players that are used to playing with Tab or played with him in the youth system and under the U.S. national team and things of that nature. That's great. And if these players can develop and be the core and be that foundation, awesome. But at the end of the day, we still need that franchise player to take the Dynamo to the next level, because that's unfortunately that's what MLS is. You see all the teams on the top right now. You can name their top 2-3 players, and then when you look at their top 2-3 players, you see that they provide the goal scoring, they provide the assist, they provide the extra oomph that's needed when the team isn't really handling that match that well and can carry that team to victory or to a tie if they're losing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But if I could add a few more things about like the DP situation, I also agree that adding DPs will be pretty much crucial for the Dynamo whenever Ted comes in, and that's essentially what's gonna start filling out the seats at VBA, and like Mark said, at the end of the day, it's a business, and that which really helps MLS and the Dynamo, and yeah, like the DPs are also gonna be a point of comparison whenever he comes in and whenever he's willing to put on an investment to put the team back on the map, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the thing that's going to drive anything in sports is basically your players and how well and how good of players you have. I mean, you see what the Rockets are going through right now with the transition after the James Harden era. We don't know, man. They're bringing players off the streets. They're bringing players off the G League, off of different teams that are the 12 men's on different teams. Wherever, and that's basically what the Dynamo have been doing the last couple of years. They've just been grabbing players here and there, left and right, from within the little budget that's been given to them, with whatever amount that Matt Jordan has been given, or in Wilmer and prior to that, Owen, and now obviously Tab. Whatever budget that they've been given, that's what they can do with. And honestly, I mean, the fact that we had players like Mauro Manotas and Albert Elise, who are doing well in their respective teams now, it just goes to show the fact that, if we had a little bit more financial resources, how much more those players could have done, because we could have surrounded Albert or Mauro with another player that could have provided the ball more to them to help ease the load that was on them, because they were pretty young players to start off with the Dynamo. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to ask this question. You guys kind of brought it up, but let's be honest. There's a DP on the bench that has yet to really play any meaningful minutes, in Darwin Quintero. New owner coming in seems like a pretty big way to make a statement. Maybe just cut ties and bring a new DP in to be the face of the franchise. That in mind, what positions, if you were Tab and you were kept and you were given the $10 million, what positions specifically are you looking to upgrade? I'll start with Andres. We'll start with the guest. Sorry, Mark, you have to wait.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good.
Yeah. On the last episode of Nail Time, we did talk about the Darwin Quintero situation, and yeah, like it's been pretty tough. The interview from Jorge Clara with Deportes Total USA, like it wasn't. I haven't had time yet to catch the entire interview, but I did read some of the snippets from the transcript from it, and it's really worrying, really. And Quintero's like really committed to Houston. Really wants to do more for the club, and but at the same time, like Tab Ramos is has to take the really make the tough decisions when it comes to who gets to play on the field, at what circumstances, and it sucks for Quintero really that he has to go through this, but also because like he's really committed to it. But at the same time, um, I will have to like understand like Tab's position and what he's trying to implement on the field. But at the same time, it's also worrying because he's like the designated player and the only designated player on the team, which he should be. When a player has a tag, you expect him to play significant minutes on and off the field. But going to the question of who would have to be the designated player going forward, like or what positions we'll look forward to, I would say for the most part, the focus will have to be in offensive-minded players, players that essentially are the game changers. I will love to see like a defensive-minded designated player, but at the same time, like I will understand like the big risk behind it, since essentially like a designated player is a huge risk to take, and but at the same time you see only the game changers out there, and really when you see like all the big DPs around the league, like it's just your goal scorers, your super subs, and really I just hope for something like that here.
I have to agree with what Andres is saying. And speaking of, shout out to Jorge Clara. On that interview with Darwin. Obviously it's a really good interview, and it's a tough position because obviously. Darwin wants to play. When he came to Houston, he was so ready to come in here, and obviously we know what he did the first season: 7 goals and 11 assists. Being top 5 in assists in all the league. Which is a great feat in itself because he didn't have a top scoring number 9 to feed the ball to. Which makes the feat even more amazing. But with that being said, obviously Darwin has a responsibility as a player, and he came in out of shape, and obviously as a coach, if you're not presenting yourself in a matter, especially if you're supposed to be one of the quote unquote leaders of the squad, you present yourself that way, then you have to lay down the law and let it be known that just because you are our best paid player or our highest paid player doesn't mean you're automatically given a spot. I understand that completely, and I applaud Tab for that, but now it's been a month. We've played 6 games, I believe. And I think it's been noted that hey, he didn't come in shape, so that's why he hasn't played. Now it's to a point where hey, well, he's practicing. He's with the squad. Well, up to recently, he's been with the squad. So I'm sure he's back into playing shape. When is he going to get the opportunity? That's between him and Tab, and obviously only Tab knows the situation. And obviously, Tab being suspended the last game wasn't a good opportunity either for you to bring in Darwin to play on top of that. So, but as far as what kind of players, obviously for me, I have to start with the 10 and then followed by a 9. Obviously attacking mind players. I've had some players in mind. You know me, Sean. I'm always looking around. I'm always looking at players that can come, that can be of Dynamo, and within the Dynamo budget. It's funny because I've mentioned players like Cecilio Dominguez and last year's show, who currently now is playing with Austin FC. I've mentioned other players as well that are currently playing with MLS, and it's funny that with the money that we're hoping that gets influxed to the club, there can be a lot of players that can be had. Just with an easy 5 to 6, maybe 10 million. If you give me 10 million, I'm finding you a number 10. I'm finding you a number 9. And that's just regular old me. Somebody with the background, soccer knowledge, and all that stuff, or hopefully that they bring as a general manager. I'm hoping that they can find at least a decent number 10 and a decent number 9. And on top of that, maybe even the defensive mid that you want to be paired up next to Derek Jones. If he is going to be our defensive mid or Matis Vera, depending on what they're going to do with that. But yeah, man, number 10 and number 9 are my first two. I have to go. If you look at Seattle, number 10 and number 9, you have no question who's starting. Nicolas Lodero and Raul Rodriguez. LAFC, even though Vela plays the wing sometime, but he plays more as a 10. And then your number 9 is Diego Rossi. Columbus Crew, Lucas Celaraya, Zardis. These are all teams that are championship caliber teams, playoff caliber teams. They have their number 10s and their number 9 spot secured. You know there's going to be productivity out of those two spots. And that's what the Dynamo have been lacking the last couple of years.
You and I have very different definitions of the words productivity out of those particular spots. When it comes to Columbus, Zardes is not exactly a prolific goal scorer.
Well, Zardes has scored goals.
Not this season. He's had two.
But I'm saying as far as
let me be real, Mark. Hold on, let me be real. Rudy has as many goals as he does in MLS play.
Hey, Vela has no goals.
But Zardes has played just about every match, so it's a difference there. But what I was trying to say is, yeah, I see what you're saying. I always got to play devil's advocate. I would love.
But Columbus is dealing with a branding issue.
Oh yeah, doesn't that sound familiar though? The only difference is we didn't backtrack on our brain and we stuck with it. They didn't. But there was a name tossed out earlier in the season, right as the season kind of kicked off, that frankly right now feels a lot more plausible than at least in my perspective, than it probably did back then. And that name still has some possibility in Carlos Salcedo.
Hey, you know what's the irony about it? We have a tiger. Well, we had a tiger running loose in Houston. Now you talking about,
right. Absolutely. But Carlos Salcedo at center back, one of two DPs potentially is, in my opinion, would make a lot of sense. Would be the type of move to get some fans into the seats, to stir up some start with a very good first impression, even in just this summer transfer window coming up that starts in June. I think it's June, or maybe the current one ends in June, something like that. But I could see that sort of thing happening, and then you get a 9 or you get a 10, either or, and players to build the team around, and frankly, you have your center back pairing, partnership for at least a good number of years in Tim Parker and Carlos Salcedo. I don't think just the 10 or the 9 or just attacking makes sense necessarily. It just depends. But I do think a second CB to pair with Tim Parker right now, given the injuries to existing CBs, given the way that the other CBs performed in last match, I don't ever want to see another 5-man back line, at least for this remainder of this year. That was just miserable to watch. I would love to see a very strong, very capable center back next to Tim Parker, and I don't think Minor is it. I don't feel like Fuenmayor is anywhere close to it at this point. And frankly, there's nobody else on that bench that even comes close to being who we need at center back.
You know what's interesting about that perspective of maybe bringing Salcedo is because Tigres are in the transitional period. Tuca Ferretti just retired. Piojo Herrera just been named head coach for Tigres. They're going to a new era, and they might be willing to unload players. They have a lot of CBs over there, and I don't know if I would pay the rumored transfer fee of 16 to 20 mil for a defender. I don't think I would do that. But I mean, like I said, but if he comes in and he's willing to, and that's just that's just a start off, and then he's willing to go pay some outrageous fee for a proven striker or number 10, then by all means, go ahead. I'm not gonna stop him. But but if it's around the around a budget that's going to be just a little bit higher than what Brenner's getting right now, then I'm not looking into investing that type of money into a defender like that, because that's a lot of money that can be used to be thrown around all around the field, all the team, every position, because we do need goal scorers. We need to score some goals.
Andres, any thoughts?
Yeah. First of all, I never like to see that 5 man back line again either.
That's so bad.
Yeah. And yeah, like just the thought of having spending a lot of money on defenders, especially in the example of Salcedo, it's a pretty big risk, and also like a point I mentioned with designated players. Yeah, like I would rather like spend it on pieces that we're actually missing, and like players that we know that are gonna make an impact. And yeah, like I would say that it's a really big risk for a defender, only because like defending in MLS is pretty hard, and just like developing like a quarterback line that brings you results every game, it's really tough. And really, like I would really like have it spent like somewhere else where we know it's gonna produce results.
I mean, at the end of it, or at least when the transition occurs, and Segal is the new majority owner, I think what really matters most, and we all have said it in some way, shape, or form, is that he spends more money than is being spent now, and preferably enough to be competitive with an MLS, at least from a financial standpoint. And you can up the salary, not salary, but the budget, and still keep some of the same players you have. That's not to say you need to go wholesale cleaning house, or or have a fire sale or anything like that. It is. I say this all the time. It's going to be interesting to kind of see where, how and when and if, the budget is increased enough to make a noticeable difference year over year. This year hasn't been bad by any stretch of the imagination yet. We've had a decent start to the season, not a great start, but not a bad start either. And there are signs of very positive things that exist within the fold of what the Dynamo are doing. And it doesn't take much to take it from positive, from positive things to actually being consistently positive. And we'll find out, right? I mean, we'll see, because it's going to happen at some point. Decisions are going to have to be made. I do expect that maybe this summer transfer window, unless they intend to keep Tab around, we're probably not going to see a big name DP necessarily. But at the same time, maybe we do. And maybe that's kind of how we judge what the next regime is going to be like. If they don't spend, that in and of itself may not necessarily be a red flag for this window. But if they do spend, and it's someone that Tab is willing to bring in, or someone that Tab wants to bring in, and is very high on, and someone that comes in and starts consistently for Tab, then I think we can all understand that means that ownership is willing to buy into and has bought into what Tab is trying to do here, in a way where they're willing to spend the money to back him up. But if they don't spend any more than they're spending now, and they do bring in another player or two, but that they transfer out, or they trade away, or whatever it is to make room, then I think that kind of signals that, hey, spending may not improve. We may be looking at the same set of circumstances. It's just we're changing. We're just changing hands of who actually is running. Owns the operation, so to speak. Go ahead.
And also you got to remember, I mean, Brenner's not going anywhere. He's staying a minority owner, so he's still gonna, kind of have the year of the new owner and things of that nature. I'm thinking, because he's still gotta help him understand the transitional period, whatever, and all that stuff. So, and if for whatever reason, let's say the Dynamo do get on a hot streak right now, and they do show potential of making the playoffs and being a very tough team and maybe close to contending, because MLS playoffs, anything can happen, right? But it might be one of those things where the situation might call for it, and they might, hey, look, Brenner might go into the guy's ear, into Ted's ear and be like, look, they're doing really well, actually doing better than what we expected. Maybe Tab needs better player, and they bring him the player, because they know that maybe they're gonna keep going with Tab. And like I said, and if it doesn't, if they just keep going along, trucking along with the same core of players, it's basically I don't want to call it a lame duck season, because I don't think it is that, because I think they have the players to at least make the playoffs. Um, I think it's gonna be essential though for these players to understand that if you want to be on the squad for next season, you better show up. And I think with that flame under their butts and them having that thought process, I think that's going to show out a lot. I mean, the game in Kansas City, the way Derrick Jones just controlled his midfield and controlled the ball and was able to get out and provide the assists to Maxi. Like, he looked like a different type of player. He looked like a different level of player during those 15, 20-minute spans, Not to mention that he's a big guy, but the way he just ran across the pitch, it looked like a gazelle. Like, it looked effortless, and it was great to see. Obviously Maxi, he 2 goals and 2 goals in 6 games, not a really big deal, but but he's showing up. He's going out there doing his thing, So I mean, and maybe Maxi's our backup for next season, our backup number 9, which wouldn't be a bad option. And obviously Pasher, before his lower body injury and whatever that means, happened. He was out there, doing his thing, looking like the signing of the bargain signing of the season, So I mean, like, these players, regardless of the fact, if the club is changing hands, you're not gonna get rid of 100% of the club and 100% of the players. So you got to keep a nice foundation, and that's what I'm hoping that we get to find out of these players, like who truly is going to stay. Are we? I know we have love for a lot of these players, but it's going to be one of those tough questions whether or not we think Membo can be a starting player, or is he just a player that comes off the bench? Is Lundy really a starting caliber left back in MLS standards, or is he just somebody that we really like the fact that he's always available and he's always there? He's basically our Iron Man, things of that nature. There's going to be tough questions, and there should be tough questions when it comes to these positions, because we haven't been achieving what we need to achieve. So no matter how much you love a player, if the club isn't achieving what they need to be achieving, then there needs to be questions asked.
Absolutely. Outside of Darwin Quintero, I have to ask this question to Andres specifically. I mean, Alejandro Fuenmayor, how are you feeling about your fellow countryman there, Andres?
That's pretty disappointing, really. Yeah, obviously, like the a center back situation is really bad in Houston, and I'm not sure if I'm sure Formayo is getting a ton of chances to prove Tab wrong, but at this point in the season, I'm getting pretty worried, especially after the last game. So we just have to see how he keeps developing, really, and yeah, I was pretty much worried at this point, since we've only got to see a game this year, but with still a long way to go. But at the same time, I'm still pretty much worried based on the last performance.
Speaking on Alejandro Fuenmayor, I've been a big supporter of his, over the last couple of seasons. I could never understand why he wasn't getting the time, because the few times that he was allowed to start or play, he was showing out, and it's just disappointing from this aspect, the fact that, obviously there was injuries. He had an injury himself, and it's just one of those things where when you have Bonnie playing next to Parker as a center back and you can't even beat him out, and then when you're given the opportunity to start, the Dynamo get thrashed. Not a good look, and it's just it hasn't been a good look for Mayor the last couple of seasons. And this I know Andres said the keep developing part, but I mean, man, he's been with the club now going on 3.5 years. And time flies. The man's been with the club. RIP to Ronaldo Peña, who's another Venezuelan who I pushed for, but just he never had the opportunity. But we'll see, man. We'll see what happens with Mayor.
I'll be honest. I expect a casualty to be, or one of the casualties to be Fuenmayor eventually. It's you brought up Boney, playing center back and playing pretty well. When he was slotted into that position, I can't argue that fact. And George says Boney's been playing great though. I mean that's fair, but in hindsight, that's a player that you probably could have slotted back there earlier rather than later. But not too early. But in the last few seasons, you could have slotted him back there as a center back, and we probably could have used a center back like Boney, a couple seasons ago.
But think about it, Sean. Now you're talking. I mean, and obviously we know that attacking players often go to defensive roles later on in their careers to extend their careers, right? But now you're talking about a 36-year-old center back and Boney when you already have a 37-year-old or 38-year-old Minor Figueroa. So I mean, you're not finding a solution to the problem that you've been having. My Minor came in 2 seasons ago as a last second signing because we need a little bit of depth for our center back that season, and Lord behold, he's been our starting center back since that last minute signing. And nothing against. I mean, Minor has all my respect. He's a true professional, constant professional, keeps in shape. The man is incredible for what he's doing at his age, right? But let's be honest, it's because of the quality of the team that he's being allowed to start. The quality of the team is so low that there's nobody else to line up against with Parker aside for Bonilla Garcia, who became a central defensive mid, I guess, halfway last season. And now, he just transitioned to a center back just to kind of extend his career. That's sad. It's really sad.
Yeah, pretty much. I think, yeah. Yeah, sorry. But yeah, I was about to say that's pretty much Figueroa still here, cracking almost 40 years old. It's pretty much like, I'd say, like putting a Band-Aid on the situation. Going back to the point that we mentioned just now regarding the issue with depth. It's pretty much that. It's pretty much like a Band-Aid on the situation on the roster, especially like on the defensive side, and it's really worrying.
And that's always been my concern about the center back thing because it doesn't matter. The thing that frustrates me with the center back signings is that they always sign one, but they always forget the partner. They did it with Raul Rodriguez. They did it with Kiki Struna. Now they're doing it with Tim Parker. It's you signed the anchor, and you need his partner to help him. Unless you're gonna play a back three and he's gonna be your main center back. But you're not gonna play a back three. Tab is not gonna play a back three. Nor do I want to see a back five again, like I stated earlier. So why I don't understand the splash in the cash or signing a big quote unquote big center back, but then not finding his partner.
Yeah, I think there was hope that they tried, right? They drafted Bartlow, and they had Sam Junqua lining up in preseason and looked pretty solid, and then both of them were injured to start the season, and have still been injured the entirety of the start of the season. It is. I have questions how these guys have been injured for so long. It'd be great for these guys to get in and get some minutes, especially right now when we need them most. And it feels like every year we have 2 or 3 center backs consistently that are out due to injury. And that is a cautionary, something to be curious about, that it has been this consistent for this long. Something is definitely going on there. Yes, injuries by nature can typically be very freak accidents or things unexpected. But at the same time, it sure seems like every season we have 2 or 3 of our backups or our, proposed starters that go down with injury for at least a period of time during the season, and usually a pretty substantial period of time.
Dude,
Sometimes
honestly,
to start the season or not. Go ahead, Mark.
honestly, this concussion issue with Barlow is really concerning to me. Like, honestly, you know, um, concussions usually. I mean, I'm not a doctor or anything I like that, but I mean, he should have been out 2-3 games at max, but now we're going to game 7. We're in the second month of the season. And there's no signs of him coming back, or he's still listed as out. That it's a shame. I mean, like I said, the player's health comes first. And I'm hoping that he's okay. But honestly, it's like, man, what's really going on over there? Because if this is something that's really going to affect his playing career or just playing at all, I mean, it's a shame because we had so much behind. We talked about it, Sean, on the show during the super draft. When they were able to draft back, still get the player that they wanted, and pick up some assets, pick up Derrick Jones in that deal. We were all applauding like, man, this is awesome, but great. Derrick Jones is doing his part, but man, Barlow hasn't even showed up. And it's a shame, and hopefully he gets the treatment that he needs and he can fight past this, and he's able to show what he can do this season. But if not, then it's a shame.
Yeah, it's pretty concerning. And from the last press conference, at least the good news is that we'll see Barlow very soon. But Jimpa first, though, like it sounded more like there's been like a setback with Barlow and his concussion treatment. But at least Jimpa's coming back extremely soon. Hopefully by this weekend or the next, really. But yeah, having both of them missing like a really crucial part of the season this early. It was a setback for the team, and obviously like having to play Boniek around in the back, and having like Figueroa play a major role this early. It's pretty concerning, really, but at least we should have them back soon.
Yeah, Tyler Pasher, same boat, right? He's been out the last 2 matches, 3 matches, I guess technically. And the prevailing thought is probably out another 3 weeks with his lower body injury, whatever that may specifically entail, although I've heard hip. But yeah, I mean, and again, another season where, we're 6 matches into the season and we're talking about 3 players that are significantly injured. And yeah, Pashers could just really truly be a muscle injury, and those can take time to heal. But Barlow and Junqua both related type of head injuries, and how you pointed out the whole month thing. In my opinion, depending on how severe the concussion is, and everybody heals from concussions differently, it can take longer. But my question is, is he doing anything in the interim, or is he jogging? Is he keeping fit? Game speed is a totally different animal, totally different beast as well. Junqua, even when he's ready, you can't just thrust him right back into the starting lineup at center back. You got to give him at least a match or 2 to kind of sub on to get used to it. That's a long time to be relying on a guy like Boniek that's well aged like a fine wine, or God forbid Fuenmayor again, or that's it, right? Like, I mean, Minor, you're not. I don't want to see Minor out there any more than anybody else, but on the flip side of it, if it means that we're only playing a 4-man back line, I'm good with that. Let's go. George says my guy Junko is a plug and play. I say what you will, but I mean, he's been out long enough that he's going to need a little time to just get back. But with that being said, I mean, I look at the place that we're in right now, excluding the last match, which was rough to watch. Coming up at here in Houston against Vancouver on Saturday. And I actually feel really good about where we're at right now, and how we've played, attacking wise and defensively. and given the injuries that we've had, given the players that we've been missing, and in the rotations that Tab has had to employ because of 3 matches in 8 days, which is going to happen a few more times this season. But I'm curious, Andres, I'll ask you this, and Mark, of course, I want you to chime in after. But when looking at the existing where we are right now and how we've played to this point, how much positivity do you have about this team? What is your, if you had to power rank this team, where do they fall on your individual personal power ranking of MLS teams?
Only based on the fact that we have like a really strong schedule to start the season with, I'd say I will rank the Dynamo pretty high. And also considering the fact that we had to like deal with the defensive injuries and essentially just like shift the lineups around constantly. And like even though we've already lost games, especially on the road by really significant margins, we still haven't been shut out really. We still have having some scoring performances out there, and especially like I'd say like the win against Kansas City was pretty convincing, considering that Kansas City is like always a nightmare to play against, and really it's still fairly early, so the power rankings don't really matter since at the end of the day it's all about what happens on the field, and yeah, well, I'm pretty much confident heading into the game against Vancouver. I did talk about it in like the last Noodle Time episode that this is a pretty much a winnable game for Dynamo. Like Vancouver's in a pretty rough shape, and the Dynamo just have to capitalize on it.
For me, obviously, there's two sides. There's two sides to the story. Obviously, if we look at our home record, we got 2 wins and a tie, which is great. That's 7 points out of possible 9. And again, what's bringing us down, what has been bringing us down for the last 4, 5, 6 seasons, as a road record. I mean, 1 point out of a possible, 9, it's not gonna get it done. And it's just been holding us back. It's been a big monkey on our shoulders, and because of that, I mean, I have to put them in the middle, right dab in the middle, maybe 15th. 14th, 15th, 16th, around there. It's one of those things where a couple things could have gone our way, a couple things could have gone against us. I mean, obviously, I know the biggest thing was the whole offside with the LAFC thing that took away 2 points from us. But then again, the whole Wando thing with him missing that goal from 1 yard, that he could have took away a win from us and made it a tie. But obviously, in soccer, you need a little bit of luck, and we've been on the receiving side and on the giving side of it. So, there. I mean, 8 points out of 18 is nothing to be happy about. But I mean, like I said, it was a tough start to the schedule. With going against LAFC, Portland, Sporting Kansas City, and things of that nature. But I'm looking for the Dynamo to rebound, especially at home against Vancouver. I don't think Vancouver is that strong of a side, in my opinion. So I do look to see them winning. Now, what I want to see, though, is, obviously the W means everything, but the way you win, too, speaks a lot about the team. And I haven't seen, even though the Dynamo have won 2 games, their wins haven't really been convincing to me. The Sporting Kansas City win was great. Don't get me wrong, but it took a great run by Derek Jones to make that goal happen, to open it up. And other than that, I haven't really seen anything that has shown me that this team is ready to take on the next level and move on to the next level and be considered a playoff team. I'm hoping to see that against Vancouver at home this Saturday.
I think the team that we all want to see is the team that includes Tyler Pasher. I've not been one to ever really proclaim a player coming out of USL to be that important to the squad they're playing for, but it is very clear when Tyler Pasher is not on the pitch for the Dynamo that they lose that edge. They lose something pushing forward. They lose that bite. They lose that tenacity. It kind of reminds me of back when Vicente Sanchez was was donned the orange for a season, and the way that he played and the respect that he just drew from other players, just by the nature and the way that he played when he was on the pitch and the way that he practiced. You look at when Tyler Pasher's on the field versus when he's not on the field, and this team is a very different attacking offensive team. And his capability with pace and creativity on the ball, like George says, it's paramount to how we play. Very reminiscent of a much more controlled version of Albert Elise in a positive way, or a Romel Kyoto in a positive way. Go ahead, Mark.
But you know what's crazy is that the whole thing with Pasher is that he's earned the respect of his teammates. Obviously him coming in. I mean, I remember when he signed. I think it was a 50,000 transfer fee to Indy 11 or whatever, something like that. So you think, oh, cool, a depth player from USL. He's one of the top scorers in that league. Great, cool, whatever. It just comes to show when you come in with the right mentality and attitude and that belief that it doesn't matter who's in front of you, as long as you do what you got to do, that you're gonna get on the pitch and you're gonna be able to contribute to this team. And that's what he's done. Every opportunity he's been given, whether it be preseason or regular season, he's taken full advantage. He's always run the ball down when he has to get back on defense, and he's always running and ready to attack when the Dynamo are on offense. And you love to see that. Obviously I'm not condoning, you run back and forth for the full 90 minutes, you're going to get tired out and all the things, but when it's necessary, he's there. It's always, you always hear Tab in interviews talking about the one weakness the Dynamo have is the transition from defense to offense and vice versa. And he's one of those players that's helping in that transition, strengthening it, depending on whether they're coming off defense to offense or whether they lost the ball and trying to get back on defense, and Pasher too, with all respect in mind to him, he's done a great job, a phenomenal job. It's a shame that he picked up this injury, but I think he's going to come back fully motivated and ready to go. He's one of those players that understands that this might be his only opportunity to play first division, professional soccer, in a country, and if it happens, great, he's going to take the bull by the horns. He's writing his own narrative, that regardless if it works out here with the Dynamo or not, he has tape and people have film on him now knowing that he is capable of playing at this level.
Andres, any thoughts about Pasher?
Yeah, pretty much. You mentioned Vicente Sanchez, and that's pretty much what I think about when it comes to Pasher. Really, he for the past few games that he managed to play, he's been really impressive overall. The way he handles the ball, the way he knows where to place the ball afterwards, it's incredible, really, and it's really goes to show his dedication, really, and this is essentially second shot in MLS since he got his first with Sporting Kansas City, but it didn't turn out the way he was hoping for. But now he's got his second shot, and so far he's taking advantage of it, and just really I'm impressed with that, and also with the fact that it's pretty much been it's probably going to turn out to be the most important signing of the offseason, and if he keeps it up, really, just not only because of the price tag, but also because just the kind of player the Dynamo got.
Yeah, I like the call out to the mentality. I mean, the guy is determined. He's got a drive to him, and a kind of never quit attitude. He puts in that hustle, he puts in that grind, and somebody said it earlier. He's a true Houstonian. I think that's absolutely spot on. And it speaks a lot to the character of the kid. Well, the character of the guy, the player. For putting in the effort after basically not succeeding in Kansas City, to not give up, to keep grinding and keep improving and keep getting better. And then he finally got his chance here in Houston. He performed well, and then unfortunately injury. We'll see how he bounces back. I mean, we've got probably a couple more weeks at least before we see him, but I for one am ready for him to come back whenever that may take place. So one of the classic things that we do, Andres, on the show, which hopefully you know by now, but we like to do our predictions for the upcoming match, and we like to have a little fun as well. We like to do our bold predictions tied to the normal prediction. So bold predictions would be something like a certain player is going to get a red card, or certain player is going to go off and score a hat trick. Take your pick, 3 assists, whatever you want to go with. Defender scores a goal, whatever it may be. At this point, it feels like someone saying bold prediction we score a set piece goal would be like quite the bold prediction. You okay over there, Mark?
Before we go on to the predictions, man, I'm glad you brought that up, man. I'm glad you brought that up. It's such a shame to see the lack of productivity from set pieces, the way we lose the ball from throw-ins and things of that nature. It's so frustrating. It's for me, it's the most frustrating thing in the world. It's the easiest thing to do. Throw in the ball to the person, but you're using your hands. You throw the ball, you give them to your teammate. I can't count the number of times we've lost possession from a throw-in. That is so frustrating to me. It's upsetting to me every time I see it. The set pieces, that's here or there because you can have a taker of a free kick or whatever and things of that nature. Obviously, we know when we had Brad Davis, we had the best left foot in the league, right? But the set pieces is another thing that we need to practice on. Go ahead, predictions.
So Andres, we'll be nice and we'll let you go second, which means Mark, of course, you get the wonderful position
to go first.
Yeah. So Mark, let's start with normal predictions. We'll do all of our normal predictions, and then we'll go bold around the table, so to speak.
Look, I said that I want to see the Dynamo create offensively, and I think this is the perfect match for them to come out offensively. And with Tab being back, I hope that lights a little bit of a fire under the squad. The fact that that he got suspended, now he's coming back, so I think he's gonna come with a little bit more, wanting to show out, hopefully. So I'm gonna go with the 3-1 scoreline.
Andres?
Yeah, that was also my prediction. Really, like I was like on the last episode, we also like made a prediction for the Vancouver game, and it was pretty much that. And like I was just hoping for a Tim Parker goal because he almost got it against Kansas City with the header, and it was pretty close. It was gonna be so hype, really. But yeah, and I'm just hoping for that. Really, that's what I'm seeing on a surface level. Looking at Vancouver and looking at the firepower we got.
Well, the last time I went this route, it turned out really well for us. So I'm gonna go 4-0 Vancouver. Using that reverse football god psychology here. Hey, it worked last time we played SKC. I'm just saying. Look, Vancouver have the capability to hit on the counterattack, and that is something we are extremely vulnerable to. It is going to require our central defensive mids plural, to be very aware of where players are. It's going to require us being very good along the outside backs to mark Adnan, who is a fantastic player for Vancouver and creates a ton of chances for them from the fullback position. And again, we're just susceptible to the counterattack, and a little bit honestly, after watching Marich play the last match, I don't have a whole ton of whole lot of great confidence in him remaining. I need to see him ball out, but I think that's my prediction. In order to keep with the idea that maybe the football gods are hearing me and they're going, no, we can't allow that to happen. So we will see. If it keeps up, I'm going to keep doing that until it no longer works. But definitely my prediction for sure. So bold predictions, Mark.
That 4-0 happens, man. We're gonna have to shut you off, man.
I mean, if the 4-0 happens, we're not having a show next week. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, 4-0 happens. I might have to, take a little break, international break. Bold prediction, man. I guess since I'm gonna go with that 3-1 scoreline, I'm gonna say it's gonna be somebody's gonna score a hat trick. Ooh, I'll go with Fafa.
Oh. I feel like you're doing that just for me, but I do appreciate it all the same. Go ahead, Andres. Bold prediction.
Well, I would say my bold prediction is that Tab Ramos is not going to get a red card this time.
I like it. I like it. Not very bold, but I like it all the same.
He's not going to step up the manager's box.
Yeah, I like that Papa hat trick prediction, really. I'd say my bold prediction will have to be that for my Mayor scores a goal. That's my prediction. My bold prediction.
I like it. I like it.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's hardcore bold right there.
Yeah, Andres.
Oh, go
Sorry,
ahead.
I just before we get to Sean's bold prediction, I don't know, I'm sure you watch the show and all this stuff and all the great stuff, but Sean knows. I don't have a hate for Fafa. I want Fafa to succeed. I've always said I want Fafa to do good for the Dynamo, but he just hasn't shown me enough for him to warrant a starting position. You know, but hey, if he scores this hat trick, I'm Fafa out. I'm all for Fafa. I'm on the
Fafa in, you
train.
mean? Fafa in?
Yeah, I'm on the Fafa train.
uh, bold prediction, and this is actually probably the most bold prediction that I've ever given. MLS pro referees get it correct in this match.
Good luck with that.
I know that may be the most bold prediction I have ever made on the show. I mean, it's pretty hard bold right there.
Sure.
You know what my second bold prediction was going to be since we're seeing goalkeepers out there scoring goals. Merrick up there going up last minute. It's to score header style, Allison style, but
I haven't sent Marich up ever since he's been here.
I know.
And it frustrates me because I'm like, no, that's a player you send up. The dude has a huge ass head. Why not?
Dude is tall as shit. So
Yeah,
look, he's got plenty of landscape to hit. You know.
Yeah, that goal by Allison is like not easy to replicate, but
No.
Yeah.
But hey, guys,
go ahead.
Before we go, man, I want to give a shout out to the ladies too. We talk a little bit of Dash on this show, and before we head out, obviously the big news of a little ICC tournament that they're gonna have in Portland for champions, to crown a champion, which is the Barcelona, which won the Premier League, which won the La Liga, and on the women's side, and just recently won the Champions League for the women. Lyon, which won La Ligue 1 in their respective league in France. Portland Thorns, who won last year's league, fall classic or whatever they called it, the regular season, and then obviously our Houston Dash, who won the inaugural Challenge Cup. But dude, I'm so upset that this is not being held in Houston. I understand why it's in Portland, but this would have been a great showing for the Dash, because it would have been in a time where, obviously everything's capacity is opening up. By that time in August, I think we'd be 100% capacity for BBVA. So, not only being able there to go support our ladies, but to watch great soccer on the women's side overall, FC Barcelona, Lyon, obviously we know what Portland Thorns do. Guys, your thoughts on this? Do you think the Dash have an opportunity to really, come out of this little ICC and lift up this crown? Andres, I'm gonna ask you first.
It's gonna be tough. Like just seeing Barcelona, just seeing Lyon, they're like most likely one of the best teams in the world, really. And obviously we are getting Portland also ahead of us. We've already played them in the second to last game of the Challenge Cup, and yeah, it's gonna be pretty tough, but they have a shot. If assuming they have the full squad in, and assuming that everything goes their way, but even though it's on the road, they have a fair shot.
Don?
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't think, and this is not a knock on the ladies at all. I truly believe in the ladies, but I don't think they have a chance in hell to beat this Barcelona squad right now. The way they are playing right now, they are, there were the Invincibles back not that long ago in EPL, and I feel like these Barcelona ladies are the Invincibles of Europe at this point, European women's leagues. Go ahead, Mark.
The crazy thing about it, obviously Lyon and Barcelona are none head over shoulders above any other female club in the world. I just NWSL or Women's League or whatever other league they call over there. But keep in mind they're going to be in preseason. Mm-hmm. And the Dash Dash in Portland will be in full and regular season mode.
We'll see. I just, like I said, the way that Barcelona was playing in that Women's Champions League, I mean, just it's tough. It's tough to say that they're not going to have a very good competition, if not take it all. To the point of George, NWSL is supposed to be the better league. I think that's fair. But I also think at the same time, there are a lot of international players that play for specific clubs when it comes to the women's teams, and the restrictions in NWSL that tends to keep a lot of the European ladies out of the NWSL. You get a few, but there are Barcelona has a full team of very good women's players, and we'll see. I mean, anything can happen. It's football, it's soccer, call it what you will. There's a reason we all love this game, because any given Sunday, right? Even though it's it's an American football phrase, it qualifies when it comes to soccer. Go ahead, Mark.
One more thing about this competition, I like the way they formatted it. Basically, the opening round is going to be Barcelona versus Lyon, and then Dash versus Portland, and then whoever the two winners will go off into play into the final, and then the two losers will go play the third place match. So so you can very easily see the Dash be in the final, because we've played Portland, we've beaten Portland, so we could see a Dash Barcelona match in the final, or a Dash Lyon final, which would be great. And like I said, Dash would be in regular season mode, and the European team, with depending who it is, would be in preseason mode. And it might be a little bit of an advantage. And I'm loving the ladies, what they're doing. I love the way they're playing out there. The last match against Gotham didn't go the way we run it, but that's neither here nor there. But I think the way the team is set up, the way Clarkson has them playing, I think they're motivated, and they're going to be motivated, especially to play against, quote unquote, two of the biggest teams, in the world, as far as from the female side. And that's a lot of motivation in itself. And then speaking on top of what George said, which NWSL is supposed to be the best women's league in the world, it can be said, because we field the best national team, which is the U.S. women's team in our league. But like what Sean said, a lot of these women are playing, their national teams in Europe, and a lot of these European national teams are coming up. They're not the gap between USA and everybody else is not as big as it used to be. It's closing.
And to that point, Andres, I don't know if you're going to chime in, but to that point, think about the Dash in general, right? How many U.S. women's national team top level players do we have? Christy Mewis, and that's about it. I mean, Shea Groom should be on the U.S. women's national team squad, but Jane Campbell, you definitely can make the argument that she deserves to be starting. But again, a very different look from really all four of these teams, in my opinion. Andres, did you have anything you wanted to add to the Dash discussion?
James Clarkson, from the last press conference that I did attend when he was president, he essentially called Jane Campbell the best goalkeeper in the world, just like that. And it just really goes to show the depth of the U.S. women's national team, just how deep that team is, and how many teams that they can field, really. And to that point, I also agree with the fact that the gap between the women's national teams out there is closing in with the United States. Even though we still see them thrashing certain teams, it's pretty much closing. And whenever we see them play the European teams in the World Cup, or just the She Believes Cup, it's not. We don't see them dominating the games. We still see them winning those games, but it's not dominating like we used to. And it just really goes to show how the women's game is developing outside of the United States, and really there's a lot to look forward to in this tournament, and just to see all these big teams coming in, like the Dash, potentially facing either Barcelona or Lyon, is going to be exciting.
Then see what happens when you build a championship caliber team, and you go out there and you actually win a championship. What kind of opportunities present themselves? You get this opportunity to play these big teams, and the Houston Dash brand is going to be known. It's going to be out there presented and represented for the NWSL side, and for other for other players across the world, to know that, hey, this is a championship level club. The free marketing in itself is worth the hassle. That's why I'm always, hey, when U.S. Open Cup, hey man, we should be going after that U.S. Open Cup year in, year out, because just the fact that we get to go, it's a direct ticket to CCL, an international competition where you can showcase your club to other players who might not be too familiar with MLS or the Houston Dynamo in particular, because obviously we know MLS hates the Dynamo. Pause. But
leave it to an Arsenal fan to be high and mighty about a domestic cup competition that really half the world doesn't even, or half the country doesn't even care about.
Leave it to a Tottenham fan to downplay.
I love Andres' reaction over there laughing at that joke.
Downplay a trophy because he can't get one. So.
I mean, say what you will. With that, Andres, we want to make sure to give you a little time to talk about what you're doing, talk about your different handles, Twitter, and any other social media, and also talk about your podcast a little more, and then share the links to all that stuff. We want to make sure we get your info out there for anybody who's watching that doesn't know about you, which probably not very many people, but hey,
I've been covering Dynamo for the past 5 years. It's been a really interesting stretch because it's pretty much been the worst timeline in the club's history, and it's been also a time where I've got to meet a lot of people and just get those great experiences. Obviously, probably like the best one being the Open Cup and also the Western Conference Final, and really like it's been I pretty much just cover the team from an independent standpoint. I'm hoping to at some point move back to Houston and give the team the coverage they deserve. Dynamo on the dash, obviously, and yeah, for the time being, I first started focusing on social media mainly through Twitter at Dynamic Foxtrot, and then I moved on to a blog and newsletter that which is found on my blog kofi.com/Dynamic Foxtrot. That's spelled ko-fi.com/Dynamic Foxtrot, just like my handle, my Twitter handle, and yeah, I also do my weekly newsletter, and I also recently started the Noodle Time podcast with Tony Rubio, which is a friend that I met through the Dynamo, and it's essentially published like every Tuesday morning. So we just talk about like the Dynamo dash, anything that happened last week, and from there we're hoping to expand further. For the time being, being in Austin and working part time during the week, and also going to school, it's kind of tough, but I still managed to get advice. So it's been a pretty fun journey, honestly.
Absolutely, Mark. Do you want to share our handles, and then we will call it a show?
Hey guys, like always, I know this show's a little bit different. Obviously we weren't live on Twitch because Twitch decided to fail on us, but we appreciate the follows, we appreciate the views, we appreciate the participation, and then obviously we love the fact that you view us on YouTube. Obviously, once it gets posted over there, and the other platforms that we're available on. Guys, we try to be here every Wednesday as much as possible, but obviously life does get involved sometimes. But hopefully we get to see you out there Saturday against Vancouver. Andres, thank you again for showing up. We appreciate you. You're welcome anytime. I'm sure Sean approves of that. Sean, anything you want to say before we go?
Just hold it down.
Hold it down.
Hold it down. Hold it down.